Well, in today's reading, we find kind of a dominant suit, of course, in the cups, and in the early numerology of the cups as well, the ace and the two in that sequence, followed by a rather powerful trump card, the Emperor, number 4. Cups, as we know, have to do a lot with relationships. It does not necessarily mean the finding of a new romantic relationship, although it certainly can mean that, or it may eventually come to mean that. Just don't forget that it can mean, other kinds: family, work, friends, a new interesting person that you might meet on public transportation, or whatever. It can have to do with relationship with the self, the higher capital S self, or different parts of yourself, or even spirituality. When it comes to the cups, I definitely like to think of them as like pre-mirror reflective devices. And so even if it concerns, a romantic relationship or any of the other kinds that I just mentioned, think about it, or try to think about it also in terms of what you can learn from yourself. And, when it comes to relationships of all sorts, compromise usually comes into play, and a need to see the perspective of the other person. So, reflection in those sorts, outside of just the ones that we determine have to do with our relationship with ourself, we still should take some time to do some reflection on those as well, in those as well. So I will say, with the progress, immediately from the ace here to the 2, where we see an expansion. We see this one lone, fairly energetic and very receptive individual represented in the ace into a 2, where we have equals. We have equal sized cups, a good thing in a relationship, looking at one another with an equality. And definitely some affection. Now again, this can relate to many sorts, but let's say it involves something outside of ourself. Just for a moment to speculate, we can definitely see where this gives us some indications as to what we might want to do or need to do in that case. Things that we, perspectives that we should take on. And look at the effect of the relationship we see coming into play here. The Emperor, quite a solid and important figure, one clothed mostly in green, representing a lot of growth. It's taken a lot of growth to get to this place, but and he hasn't finished his journey either. It will probably involve some further growth as time goes on, and so we need to have a receptivity to that, and a willingness. We can't get too comfortable in that nice Emperor's chair. But the growth and the stability that can come from the relationship that I just discussed, that I said we'd put in the context of another person, well, the same progress can apply if we want to talk about realizing certain things about ourselves after some self-reflection, and then moving into something more stable within ourselves. So again, this really can relate to a number of different scenarios, and we should have an openness to that. We may want it to mean a certain thing, or we may fear that it might mean something. But look at it from different contexts, and remember that that old Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above. But don't forget the second part. As within, so without. What we do with ourselves internally will affect things externally. And if we do want to see this represent a literal other person, still best to start on the inside. What do we do to attract the right kind of person, also known as the kind of person that we want? Well, again, with that self-reflection we discussed, we can do that, but the change has to start within ourselves.